I just have a passion for personal development because my belief system is that real change starts from the inside and it starts from the root. And I believe that once we change our internal landscape and we work on our personal development, everything is affected outside, like our professional development, our reality.
Welcome to the Do You Feel Heard podcast, a production of Helping the Herd. Helping the Herd is committed to empowering individuals to liberate themselves from the patterns that keep them from creating their ideal life. If you like this podcast, visit helpingtheherd.com to find resources and personalized coaching to empower you to be your best self.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Do You Feel Heard podcast. Kristin, thanks so much for being here. And
thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I love it. It's infectious. I can tell. I love your smile. Welcome, audience. Thanks for listening. Kristin, let's launch right in. I'd love to know how you came to be here, how you know Ian, and I'm so grateful to get to meet you, and a little bit about what brought you here, sitting with us today. Anything about your bio you want to share with our listeners?
Sure. I guess I'll give you a little background really quick of how I ended up on a magical blueberry farm. My past was I actually used to be a Dale Carnegie trainer, and then I was a Berkman method consultant and a yoga teacher. And I had a design company before that. I've been around for a little while. But basically, after training and developing so much of Northwest Arkansas, I worked with all of the Walmart vendors. I saw that a lot of people were really disconnected, overworked. They almost felt like they were just going through the motions day by day. And anyways, I loved training and facilitating, but if you can tell, I'm very enthusiastic and very passionate, and I like to do things my style, my way. And even though I loved Dale Carnegie, they said, Kristin, you need to behave yourself and you need to tone it down and be more corporate and be this way and that way. And I said, namaste, have a beautiful, very blessed day. But I have my own event center and I'm going to do things my style, my way, and live my authenticity. And basically what I learned from training and developing so many people in Northwest Arkansas, I actually had this land and we had blueberries at the time, not the house in the event center, but I actually sat up on the hill and I meditated and prayed for years. And I asked God for a giant healing sanctuary where people to come from all over the world, all different backgrounds, religions, and for everybody to come and to get along and be kind and to have some sort of physical, spiritual, mental healing blessing or benefit, and to go out and spread that to others. That was my why as to why I wanted this space. And I have to say, about 2 years ago, I cried because during one of our blueberry seasons, believe it or not, in the town of Garfield, Arkansas, I had people from about 20 countries on my little farm during blueberry season, all picnicking, all eating, all being kind to each other, enjoying the moment, being present, fireflies all around. And I cried. And I was like, thank you so much for hearing my prayers. And it was just beautiful. And I host corporate executive meetings. I have a lot of the executive teams. It's even cool whenever they come here because they always say, you know, that was supposed to be a very intense meeting, but because of the energy on the farm, we had really good results. I think we're going to come here more often to have better results because the energy and the intention was just really strong. And we do all kinds of events. I have an event center. I have a luxury Airbnb. My passion is retreats and people. And but I host weddings, I host showers, I host parties. Ian and I met at a really cool retreat that we had with Be Well Yoga. And we met and we ended up talking, and all of the ladies loved him and they loved what he was teaching. And they were like, it's so valuable. It's so awesome. He is so amazing. And so I was like, well, I need to get to know him more. And so anyways, we resonate with a lot of the same topics and our beliefs and our way of seeing things. So we scheduled a meeting and we were like, let's do some things together. And so anyways, we'll probably be working together a lot because we have similar ideas And we're going to be doing our retreat November 9th. So, anyways, that's how we met, and that's why we're here.
Wow. Fantastic. Thank you. Oh, again, infectious, and yeah, just sparked my curiosity all over the place, of course. That was a great bio, and just a few steps along your journey. I'm sure there's many more. But right
Yes.
off the bat, I got to ask about the Dale Carnegie training. I've heard of
Yes.
that. That's how to win friends and influence people, right?
Yes.
But yeah, I forgot Dale Carnegie as the
Yes.
author, and I've never heard much about this. I'd love to hear about that. And you mentioned a Berkman method. Both those caught my attention.
Yes.
What's going on?
Obviously, like I said, I have a passion for people. Before I did all of that, I actually had a design company, and I have a very big passion for design and creativity. Anyways, I would finish a giant remodel and I would look in the mirror and I'd be like, "You're not doing what you were meant to do." And then, so somebody said, "Kristin, I am in this Dale Carnegie course," and the Walmart home office trains a lot of their employees with that. And they were like, "I could totally see you facilitating this. It's all the things that you love." Anyways, it was a 3-year certification. It was very intense. It's not easy. They're very selective about who they want to be a trainer, but I did it. And like I said, it's a lot of, they do everything from leadership to public speaking to soft skills. But a lot of the things that they teach are things that we should naturally know. But I think we've become so distracted and detached and like not in the flow that we don't think about using simple things like smile, show the other person appreciation, express gratitude, give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. So I used to get to coach on that. And then the Berkman method,
When
that's
did you do
another.
that? Sorry to interrupt. When did you? What were the years you did your fellowship?
So I started, let me see, I started Dale Carnegie, that certification. I think it was back in 2009.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just asked because I was thinking about how much all those skills that you said, maybe could be a lot more natural or a
Yeah.
lot harder after COVID, I think. I know I think of myself as
Yes.
quite the gregarious person and social,
Right.
and like I feel like I developed social anxiety just from like that whole thing, and it's been like relearning some of my natural social aptitude. Yeah, even though I felt like I had, a decent handle on that before, it's like, oh wow, I forgot to be a human sometimes. So that's
No,
why I asked. Thank you.
yeah, no, it's interesting. I've been talking to so many people and I've been having so many meetings lately, and they've all been saying the same thing. And they were like, "I think COVID really made me, take a lot of step backs, and I was more isolated and I was more detached." And like I said, a lot of the things that they teach, I mean, they also do public speaking. I love public speaking. I've been doing that since I was 11. But they, public speaking, leadership, how to reduce stress and worry. That was another thing that I used to facilitate. Confidence, communication, all of those things. And like I said, they're so valuable, and it's an amazing course. I think everybody should take it. I just have a passion for personal development because my belief system is that real change starts from the inside and it starts from the root. And I believe that once we change our internal landscape and we work on our personal development, everything is affected outside, like our professional development, our reality. And so that was like I said, my passion is personal. I still do professional development with some people, but if you get to know me, I'm going to be like, "Okay, let's redesign your reality. What's your purpose? What's your passion?" And like I said, I just walked away from corporate America and I was like, "I'm going to be authentic in myself. And I'm not going to feel like I'm a weirdo anymore. I'm just going to be me. And hopefully, if people like it, great. If not, they don't have to be around me. I guess, if I don't resonate with them, that's okay too. We're all on a different path."
Well, it certainly
But
seems to be from what I've observed, it certainly seems to have been the right path for you because
yes.
from what I have seen, people are like flocking to you from the resonance from your authenticity, and so yeah, you made the right choice, and I hope that others are also inspired to make the right choice and find that authenticity with themselves because it does bring a level of fulfillment and joy and satisfaction that living in someone and through someone else's approval or what someone else wants you to be doesn't quite do the same thing.
No, not at all. And that's why I'm so excited to get to work with you on our retreat that we're doing about people pleasing, because you are an expert about that, and I am a recovering people pleaser. And it's something very dear to my heart because it really held me back from my authenticity my whole life. And I did a talk and I said, I used to be a people pleasing puppet, being everything for everybody and what they wanted to be. But really, I felt lonely. I felt sad. I felt empty. I felt like nobody really loved me for me because I wasn't being myself, because I was being everything for everybody. And it's just a really draining way to live. And, it was kind of sad because people don't really see your value because, yeah, you benefit them. But what about your truth and your authenticity and who you are? And so it's been a very big journey for me. I'm very passionate about it. Like I said, it held me back for many years. So, and I do believe that a lot of women, especially, are people pleasers because, we're trying to run businesses, we're trying to raise children, we're trying to do right by everybody, and we can be enablers and guilty. Like I said, I still work on that, but I just think it's such a valuable skill, and I'm so excited, and I think it'll benefit so many people in so many ways. Like I said, my journey, once I finally stopped being a people pleaser, I'm still a work in progress, but most of the way. But it's literally changed my whole life. Like, now I get to be my authentic self, and I feel like I have more value now because I'm living my truth, not living everybody else's truth and what they want and who they want and how I should behave and how I should think. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'm glad you guys are working together. This is good. Yeah, we had Ian gets a lot of questions about people pleasing, and
Oh,
we had a podcast not long ago about it, and just a rich topic. One thing Ian will say often is that awareness is the first step to change.
yes.
How did you first become aware that you had a people pleasing tendencies?
Honestly, I was just, I have always been, I've always tried to make everybody happy. I've always tried to not rock the boat. I've always tried to be who I thought everybody else I should be. And, it was interesting because I really didn't know who I was for a really long time. And I think you get to a point where you get really uncomfortable in your own skin because you almost feel like you're cheating on yourself, if that makes sense. If you look in the mirror and you're like, who am I? Like, yeah, and basically what I noticed with myself is, honestly, in 2018, my whole life pretty much fell apart. Everything I knew, everything I had, it just kind of went poof. And it was not fun at the time, but it was such a beautiful blessing for me because it forced me. I'm a hard-headed woman. I wish I could have figured it out on my own, but unfortunately, I had to have a lot of events happen, and it was a giant wake-up call. And I just realized, I think one of my biggest blocks is I think I've never really seen my value. And because I was a people pleaser, and I think I really never saw my value. And so, because of that, I would attract people, situations, jobs that didn't really value or appreciate me. And then, whenever everything fell apart, I was like, well, all I have is myself at this point. I guess I have to have a love affair with myself. And I still remember somebody looked at me and she was like, "So, Kristin, what are you gonna do?" And she probably thought I was a weirdo, but I smiled at her and I got a little smirk and I said, "Well, I guess I'm just gonna have a love affair with myself." And so I've been rebuilding, redesigning my life ever since then, doing a lot of inner work. I always say that I'm a work in progress. I'll never get bored. I love doing my inner work. And it's one of the reasons that I'm so effective at helping others because I've experienced a lot of things. And I just look at everything as a lesson or a blessing. And so it's just kind of propelled me further. But basically, that was my people pleasing, kick in the butt, reality awareness. Like I said, I wish I could have figured it out on my own, but I think I was so used to control and comfort and stability and the way that things were. Literally, things just had to fall out of my life um, in order for me to wake up and for me to start being my authentic self and to stop being a people pleaser and to start having a love affair with myself. So I know that's kind of a funny way to say it, but that's I was like, I've always loved everybody else so much more, and I've always wished happiness for them, and I've always encouraged them and built them up and inspired them and empowered them, and I still do that. But what I figured out was I can't truly, deeply love others until I love myself first, and I see my own value and my own worth. And luckily, when everything fell apart, like I said, it was a smack in the face. And, I had many nights whenever it was not that fun, but I'm a fighter and I got myself up and I dusted myself off and I was like, well, I can't have a pity party that long. And now it's actually really great because now the people that I attract, they see my value. They like me for who I am. They appreciate me. And now I can manifest and attract and bring into my reality that which is in alignment with me and my highest self. And where before, I just would attract people, situations, jobs, events that were more like energy vampires where I benefited them, but I was left kind of like a dried out noodle. So
I love the energy
it's not
vampires.
fun being a dried out noodle with no life in you.
No,
Uh,
the victims are not the stars in the vampire movies. That's
I
not
know, that's what I'm
that's not
saying.
that's not what we're attracted to.
I
I hear
know.
I hear so much about what you said earlier about the starting from the root, like what the foundation that you're building from is going to really determine what you get. And like you said, you have to start from with yourself if you want to love.
You
Know
do.
thyself, love thyself. I
Yeah.
do agree that having a love affair with yourself is an interesting way to put it, but you're
I
speaking of the
know.
same thing, and people need to hear things in different ways
Yeah.
sometimes. You might
Yeah.
know love yourself, but maybe someone out there needs to hear I need to have an affair,
I
romance novel.
I was like, I'm gonna romance myself. I take myself on dates. I make sure to nurture myself and fulfill my needs. Where before, like I said, all of my needs and all of my love and all of my everything went to everybody else. But now I'm like, hey, I have the same value. I have the same dreams. I have the same possibilities as everybody that I love so much. But now it's beautiful because now it's mutually reciprocal. So I look at everything as like a figure eight. So equal giving and receiving. And it's just a really beautiful co creation. I love co creating with others and I love creating beautiful things with others. So. And unfortunately, now because I've done some of my inner work, like I said, attract the right people and the right situations and the right opportunities. And if I don't, it's obviously some unhealed area of my life that I still need to learn from. And I have awareness, like you said. And I'm like, okay, this little lesson keeps popping back into my life. So what do I need to learn? How do I need to grow? How do I need to get rid of this so I can move on and have this, leave me alone? But I don't play the victim anymore. Like I said, everything's a blessing, a lesson, an opportunity, and I choose to take my power back.
Yeah,
So,
what an empowering approach. I'm
yeah,
not the victim. Everything that's happening to me is something that is an opportunity for me to grow or do or
yeah,
something. It's all positive and nothing is
yeah.
happening to me.
No, it's happening for me.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I've been playing with this lately. It's something I'll remember and forget. I try to view everything as a lesson or a teaching, when I
right.
can. Like, that's there for a reason. It's easy to forget and to start getting into the victim mentality. But
Yeah,
I don't know if someone's trying to retool that approach and they're really like, what are you talking about? Things just happen and sometimes they suck. I don't know. How do you switch your mindset over to this view that's so much more, pro, I don't know, pro life, pro just this a being of no, these things are there for a reason. And yeah, how do you switch over your lens to that?
it's fascinating. Like I said, I'm a work in progress, and I've had a lot of areas that I've had to work on and develop. And like I said, I still am. But another thing about me, I'm very into mindfulness and holistic living and prayer and meditation. And that's because I actually used to have anxiety disorder. And so I would always live in my head. I would always live in the past. I would always worry. And basically, it was like living in a mental prison. And it was terrible being trapped inside your mind where you could never be present and enjoy the moment. And like I said, I finally just had enough. And I had always heard that, you can live in heaven or hell right on earth. It's all in your head. It's all about your perception. And so basically what I did is I got tired of living in my head and living in my body and feeling, that way. And like I said, I was like, I'm not going to be a victim anymore. I'm going to take matters into my own mind. And so I'm very passionate about meditation, very passionate about prayer. I'm a very spiritual person. I believe in divine love. We're all one. But basically, it was basically that meditating, praying, practicing what I preach. And I basically, like I said, from living in hell in my head, I just decided there has to be a better way. Like I don't like feeling like this in my body. I don't like feeling like this in my mind. It's like a burden. And I just decided to take matters into my own hand. And so, what I learned, I'd say one of the most valuable tools that I've learned is that your perception is your reality. And two people can see the exact same event right in front of their faces, but depending on their experiences, their background, their religion, their what have you, they're going to see that experience through the lens of their past and their reality. So I just decided, all right, I'm going to make a conscious choice to look at my reality this way, to where it has a more positive effect on my reactions and my emotions. I'm going to be solution oriented, not problem oriented. I'm going to focus on solutions, not problems. I'm not going to give my power away and lower my vibration anymore because of the way something makes me feel. So I'm continually working on my perception. My perception shapes my reality. And so I choose how to view that. And then I, like I said, choose everything as a lesson, a blessing, or a possible solution or a growing opportunity. And so instead of going down into a downward spiral, I actually elevate myself and I learn and I grow. And then I can empower others to learn the same lesson and to do the same. But I basically have to hold myself accountable for my thoughts, my perceptions, and I have to choose my emotions. Everything is a choice. Our entire reality is made up of our choices. And like I said, I got tired of living in hell in my head. Now I pretty much live in heaven most of the time. It's not perfect, but I live in a very blissful, happy state most of the time. And if I go down into a funk, I'm like, all right, Kristin, use your tools, use what you taught yourself, use what you teach and what you preach. And I'll dig myself out of the hole and then I'll learn. And then I try to teach others how to do the same.
It's really interesting. I don't know if you're probably familiar with this. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Have you ever
It's
heard
true.
that before? But it's the
Yes.
same thing of if you apply that to your perception, if you believe that everything is meant for you as, as a guide or as support or as
Mhm.
God or the universe kind of helping steer you to where you need to be, then it will be.
It will
Similarly,
be.
if you believe that everyone's out to get you and everything is
They
here
will.
to tear you down, well, guess what? It's gonna tear you down, and because you're
Yeah.
choosing to view things that way, and it's so beautifully articulated with these little, I always give Derek a hard time with these like bumper sticker things, these like cliche statements, but damn it, if there's not wisdom in every single one of them, and so, yeah, I love the direction that this conversation's going because it is so
Yeah.
helpful and right on time for people pleasers,
Mhm.
for people who are in a mentality that isn't serving them.
Right.
You have the control of not a whole lot in this world, but you can control
Right.
your perception, and
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing to control.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. I think I'm going to do a video on this after I do this podcast. I do a lot of inspirational videos for my clients and people, but it was interesting. I really think the universe, God, spirit, source is guiding us all the time. Um, a lot of times we're just so distracted we don't listen. But it was hilarious. Yesterday I had a crazy day. I had meetings. Alexander had basketball. I had to do a lot of stuff on the farm. I was grocery shopping at 9 in the morning and I got an email that said, Alexander has a basketball game in Gravette at 6 o'clock. And I had an appointment at the farm at 6 o'clock. And I started to go into panic mode. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this by myself? Because I always say, well, you'll figure it out, Kristin. Let's just figure it out. It was fascinating because I heard in my head from my guides, stay calm, carry on, stay calm. And instead of going into a downward spiral and letting my thoughts create my reality, I was like, all right, there's obviously a reason I'm hearing this. So I stayed calm. Then I started driving home, speaking of bumper stickers, and I'm driving down the highway and I look over and I see a bumper sticker that says, stay calm. And I was like, oh my gosh, we are being talked to and guided all the time. And then I got home and I texted his coach and I was like, listen, I can't be in two places at once. And he was like, oh, Kristin, I just made a mistake with the email. They have practice tonight, but they don't have a game. And I was like, they told me the whole time. And luckily, I was smart enough to listen to my guides and to just trust the process and to stay calm. And it worked out great. I had a great appointment. Alexander went to basketball. You and I had a nice little meeting on the phone in between all that after I walked the dog. It all worked out. So,
It's such a good example of how preparation can just be vital for when things hit the fan. People, don't value it whenever things are going well. You don't care about all the preparation you did. If you're doing martial arts, you learn how to fall. And maybe you hope, I'm never going to get thrown. I'm never going to have to fall. But when that does happen, you're you almost always you do. You can try, but you don't actually get the value of preparation until something like that. It can be really hard, I think, to prepare and drill and to find the way. But what I'm hearing is you've done preparation in your mind. When you say guides, I'm not sure what you mean, but I hear one way I can interpret that is also just your mental preparation, the voices, the echoes of all the things you've listened to, that you've said, that you've taught, that then create almost like I've heard, I think Ram Dass talks about hanging out with all your friends, and those are the books that you've read and the spiritual teachers. He likes to just go hang out with the gurus and in Christ and Patanjali and all these people, and he'll just I like to surround myself with my friends. And that's one thing I heard you say. You've spent a lot of time cultivating a friendly mind. You've loved yourself to the point where whenever things get stressful, you don't have to, it doesn't take an act of God or even a bumper sticker to get you on to the right path. You've done the work, the preparation to where you start to naturally go that way. And then maybe the universe throws you a bumper sticker as like a reminder.
Yes.
All right, I'm on the right path.
They're like, Kristin, you're on the right path. Focus. Don't go on the downward spiral. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm going to stay calm. I'm going to be in divine flow. It's all going to be okay. And it was.
Yeah, you mentioned meditation. What kind of meditation do you do? What are some of your meditative practices that have prepared you?
Well, I'm a little bit non-traditional. So I'm not like if you get to know me in person, which I'm sure you probably will sometime, but you will find out that I am a busy little bee. I don't sit down very often, so I'm always here or there, or I'm moving things or I'm creating things or whatever. But my form of meditation, I have a lot of intentional practices I actually build them into my schedule every day. I look at them as a part of my lifestyle. So I do a variety of things to have a healthy, holistic lifestyle. Usually, I think a lot of people hear the word meditation and they automatically think you're, which I do that too. But I think meditation is just being in the present moment and closing your mind off and just being present, doing something that, brings you in to where you can just be creative and be your authentic self. I tell people whenever they come to the farm, I say, go pick blueberries. It's a repetitive pattern where you're not thinking, you're in the moment, you're in nature. And that is a form of meditation. Cooking, for me, I love cooking. I look at food as a beautiful masterpiece. I like to have my little glass of red wine, and I love to create it from start to finish and chopping and dancing and do. And so I look at food as meditation, but usually I'll start my day if I can, if I don't have meetings, I'll start my day at the back of my house. It's beautiful here. It's a giant healing sanctuary, but I call it bird TV. And I have my coffee and I sit outside and I watch the birds and the pollinators and the clouds. And, we were talking about the moon earlier. I saw that through the fog on the way home. Anyways, I will literally sit there for 30 minutes and I have gratitude. Like I literally give thanks for everything. I am such a grateful person. I even give thanks to the way my shower shampoo smells and the way the water feels on my body. The fact that I'm even able to smell coffee, the fact that I'm even able to have eyes to see such beauty. And so I start my whole day basically in a form of meditation, I would say, having my coffee and having gratitude. And then a lot of times, whenever I'm doing that, I will do that outside where I can earth as well. I'm very into earthing and grounding. So I will have bare feet, my butt on the ground, my coffee in the hand, watching the birds. And I'll do that for 30 minutes. And then I spend an hour every day in nature, walking my Aussie, Oliver. Sometimes Alexander will come with me, but that's my nature therapy for me to clear my mind and connect with source and God and to get my thoughts and to just reset my fields. And then I also schedule 25 minutes to meditate. And that's where I sit in my chair or under a tree. It depends on what my mood is. But I will sit in my chair and I meditate a little differently. I love prayer. I'm very spiritual. I'm very connected to source and connected to all things. And so I basically will pray for the universe. I will pray for the planet. I will pray for the trees, the waters, the minerals, the people, the animals. I literally start way up here and then I go all the way down. And then I'll pray for people I love, and then I'll pray for myself, and then I will send love and light and healing. I'm a healer, so I work with energy, and so I basically work with energy all over the universe and the world, and then people, and I'm very intentional. And then I will actually put my hands on my heart, and I connect with the consciousness of my highest self, and then I'll connect with the consciousness of God and I'll connect with the consciousness of my guides. And I just ask for wisdom, guidance, thoughts, feelings. And then usually I'm given all of that and I use it. And like I said, I feel like I'm connected to everything, all nature, all people. I just feel like everything, I believe in divine love. And like I said, I feel everything, I feel everyone. Um, I've gone through a lot so I can empathize and understand and connect and heal and help. Um, you
All
know,
right, Kristen, I'm convinced. Can I move in? Like, where do I apply? What do I have to do? How do I get over that? I can see what you mean about why people are drawn from all over the world to that vibration.
yeah,
You are just radiating it. And
yeah,
like, again, you're pointing out, I don't even intentionally or not, you're pointing out a lot of the steps that someone could take to get closer to where you are. And I'm hearing things like, one thing that someone said to me that always stuck is worry about nothing, pray about everything. How
yeah,
many, right?
everything.
How many
Yeah,
of us are worried about the state of the world right now, the planet, other people, our families, our pets, you name it?
yeah,
You can worry about those and
yeah.
then start to attract some negative things that you're worried
Yes,
about. Or you can pray
yes,
about wanting the positive thing
yeah.
and maybe in some way attract that or manifest that with the way in which you're going through the world, with the way in which you're interacting with all those things.
And that is such a good point because remember, everything is energy. Thoughts, words, intentions, they are energy. So you're right. You can basically put that energy and that intention towards, like you said, lower vibrational things of worry and anxiety and chaos. And basically, you will magnify that or you can pray about everyone and everything. I try to pray for everybody. If somebody's mean to me or they're pissed off or they don't want to be around me, I just send them good energy and I'm like, well, they're on a different path and maybe they're going through stuff and it is what it is. And I'm not gonna put hate or anger or frustration. I'm just gonna put positive energy and prayers. I even pray before I go into Walmart. This is so silly, but I pray before I go anywhere before I did this podcast, I said a prayer and I said, God, if there's anything that I need to say or that we need to talk about or that we need to discuss that can be a blessing or a benefit or a healing for some way to somebody, please let us be able to give that gift to whoever hears this. Please let us accomplish that with this podcast. That was my prayer before the podcast. I literally pray over everything in the car. I mean, yeah. Some people might think I'm a little different, but that's okay. I even pray over my blueberries. I don't use any chemicals on the whole farm. And people always come here and they're like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful and everything is so full and magical. And what do you do? And I'm like, I pray over it. I talk to them. I send them energy and love and light. And I sit out there and meditate. And I just literally, my heart field, I ask for my heart field to hopefully have some sort of a positive effect on everything that comes in contact with me. People, animals, land, whatever. And I try to be a pulsation of love and light. I'm not always that way. I'm human, but when I'm aware of it.
A pulsation of love and
I'm
light.
a
What more can we ask?
pulsation, a powerful pulsation.
What more can you ask for? Oh, I love that. The Psychedelic Sciences Conference I went to in June, I found out about a company that grows mushrooms of all kinds, and they put them into I don't know if it's chambers or if wherever they're growing them, they play music in certain tones and frequencies
Oh, yes,
the entire
that
time.
all works. It's
That's what they
huge.
say. They say it makes them extremely, they have different effects than a mushroom that's grown in another way. And you have many people who swear by it, and I thought it was very interesting. I can tell you're just going through kind of spreading that.
Yes, I mean it is so true, and it's funny. Speaking of meditation, I've talked to a lot of people, and everybody has a different spiritual journey, and everybody gets there a different way. But I've known people. I remember having a conversation with one of my girlfriends one time, and I was telling her how a lot of times I live in a state of bliss, and she was like, "Gosh, she said, I had to do mushrooms to feel that way. And I'm like, you can do it naturally. You just have to, I'm like, you can do it. Like, if you just do it this way. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And I just think it's for meditation and doing my work. I've never used any sort of plants. Everybody's different, but, yeah, I always joke around and say I have a natural high. So, but yeah, it's cool. Everything is energy. Like I said, if you come here, one of the things that I did whenever I was manifesting the farm is I asked God to put the farm in a beautiful violet flame, iridescent, rainbow colored dome of energy and love and healing and light and pulsation. And it's very fascinating because when people come to the farm, they can feel it, usually before they hit the gates, and they can start to feel the shift. It's almost like you're in a different reality. And I just think it's because of my intentional energy work and praying and manifesting and believing and seeing and feeling. And I know people feel it because I have people tell me all the time. I've even had people show up from the highway on my porch crying, and they said, I don't know what it was, but something told me to come here and something told me to be here. And I've had like 3 people show up crying on my porch. And they were like, I was just guided to come here. And they end up on my front porch. And I'm like, oh, let me give you a hug. You know what? Everything happens for a reason. I'll pray for you. I'll spread you love and light. And they're just like, thank you. And usually it's like a 30-minute conversation. And I listen to them. And then I'm like, okay, bye. Have a blessed day. Good luck. But yeah, it's crazy. So you can ask, what you're energetically sensitive. What do you think? Like, what are your?
Yeah, I mean, I I want to touch on just I'll answer your question, but also want to call back to something from a recent episode where Derek and I were talking about our sensorium, our our body's senses, and
Or autumnal sensorium. Only the
essentially
autumnal version.
essentially how we perceive what's happening, and our senses have evolved over thousands of years to be in our best, to serve us in the best way possible, to be of
Yes.
best use to us, and how
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, because of the things that the humans have gone through over the past several thousand years, like our senses have been geared towards safety from predators
Survival.
and dangers, and so yeah, survival mentality.
Survival.
Whereas if we had the ability to live in a state of peace and safety and like we're speaking about now, this like bliss state, if we were
Mm.
able to sustain that for
Hmm.
thousands of years as a human race, what would our senses then begin to be able to see to support us in this blissful state, or to allow us to see what all is here? And as you were talking about the energy and this like vortex bubble of purple
Yes.
light,
Yes.
I can hear the like the crunchiness of people that have never experienced that type of
Oh, yeah.
thing, where they're like, oh yeah, okay, there's a dome of energy, right? You know, like,
They're like, I'm staying
but
away from this
but
weirdo.
what if, like, I mean, I think we all have to acknowledge that there are so many things happening we cannot perceive with our senses.
Oh my
There's so
gosh.
much going on around us that just doesn't get caught by our senses. Whether, like you're saying, everything is energy. Like like they can, that's measurable. Like everything has a frequency, whether it's a
Yes.
table in your kitchen or whether it's a flower or a human. Everything has a resonance, an energetic
No.
frequency
And
that it
that's how
is.
we attract.
Exactly, everything is humming,
That's
and you
our
get into
reality.
magnetism, you get into those
Yes.
things, and you really start to understand conceptually, but you still can't see it. And there's this, we talked about the last time too, seeing is believing. But
Yeah.
is it really though, or is that just a thing that we've been programmed
We've been
to
programmed.
believe so that we function in that way? And so,
Mhm.
anyway, to answer your question about the energy on the farm, it absolutely is different. There is a noticeable shift energetically of just,
Yeah.
it feels safe, it feels
Yeah.
calm, it feels warm, it feels like, I don't know, there's just like a level of peace that
Yep.
you feel, and not even there within myself. I go into that
Mhm.
space and I'm just like, okay, everything's all right. I'm good. I
Yep.
feel good. Like I feel peace within me,
Hmm.
not just on the, like, if that makes sense. The farm isn't
Yep.
peaceful. It brings the feeling of peace into me.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I definitely would agree that there is a noticeable shift. I mean, same thing. Have you ever walked into a Walmart? I walk into a Walmart and I
Yes.
feel terrible. I
I
feel like,
have to cleanse and purify and do a meditation when I
lighting,
get
the
home.
fluorescent lights, and
I
like
see
it
why you
just.
pray before going into Walmart. That made perfect
I,
sense to me. That did not seem weird at all. I was like, yeah, where else
Yeah.
are you gonna go?
Yeah. You know,
Have you
it,
ever been
it
to a Kmart? I'm just sorry, not
been a
to
long
many
mention
time.
years
Kmart.
Been a
ago,
long time.
yes, long time ago. I think in
Yeah,
Florida, maybe.
yeah. I think it was in California, probably.
It
Yeah.
always Kmart feels like it's frozen in time in like the 60s
Hmm.
or 70s. Everything's like sepia. Everything is just stale and like it
Yeah.
seems like it's covered in dust even if it's clean.
Yes.
It's the weirdest place.
It's
Talk about
yucky.
an energy
It's like
vortex.
a bad dream.
If you don't
Right,
believe that
exactly.
Kristin might have a violet dome over the farm, then go to Kmart and see like the sepia dome, and you'll know what she's talking about.
Well, you were talking about frequency. And a lot of people, they're not aware of it. There's a lot of people that haven't done their work, and that's okay. They're just not there yet. We all have a different journey. But it's funny because everybody emits a frequency. And I always joke around and I say sometimes I feel like I'll pull up at a stoplight and like some person like will pull up next to me and then they like literally peel out. Like they're like, "Arr!" Like they cannot wait to get away from me. And I do have that effect on a lot of people where they literally will run for the hills. I know I have a lot that run to me as well. But if they haven't done their work or if their frequency is much different, literally, they can't physically stand to be around me. It's really, and the more work that I do and the more, that I meditate and that I do that, it's more noticeable. And I'm kind of like, wow, that's really interesting. Like they're physically uncomfortable around me.
It's
Now other people love me, but some people it's like I guess I repulse them in some ways. I don't know,
Well, I love that
but
we've taken this turn down the path of magnetism. We don't have to stay here,
yeah,
but
okay.
we keep talking about magnetism, and just to put it into a frame that I think everybody can understand. If you have a magnet, there's two poles to a magnet, and if you put the positive to the negative, like okay, but you like you can't if you take the two positive ends to the
Ah,
pole, they're going to resist each other because it's everything in, it's seeking balance in nature. And so the positive seeks the negative. But if you try to force them together, they resist each other so much that you have to, with a lot of pressure, try to force those magnets together. And even then, they will always be repelling each other because they're not drawn to each other.
That's right.
Similarly with magnetism, with people, and I agree wholeheartedly with every fiber of my being that we are energetic and we do
Yeah.
attract and repel things that
Yes.
aren't on the same frequency. Now we can be close, right? I might be at like a 5 and you're at a 4. Cool. We can
Yeah.
gel. But if I'm at an 8 and you're at a 2, we're really far apart, and that energetically is not going to be something that's going to feel good next to
No.
each other or to collaborate on something energetically because you're so distant, you're so far
Yeah.
apart.
Yeah.
Wait, this seems like a really good time for this question. You mentioned healing a few times,
Yes.
especially in the framework that Ian just described of these mismatches. But in any framework in which you see it, how do you see healing? What is healing?
So it's interesting. That's actually been a struggle with my authenticity. So I come from a background, I have a wonderful family, but I come from a background where my family, they're medical. My dad, he's brilliant. He went to Harvard, Cornell, University of Florida. So very by the book, very analytical. My mom was a cytotechnologist, and they're always like, this is Kristin, our creative, spiritual one. She's the free-spirited one. But like I said, I've always had a lot of natural abilities and natural gifts. I think everybody has them. I really believe that what Jesus taught, I really think he was very metaphysical, and he came here to tell everybody, hey, you can do everything that I'm doing. You can be a healer, you can be a teacher. Like, here's the example. I think it's in all of us. I think we're naturally designed with those gifts and abilities, but a lot of people just don't tap into that, where I have. And I've always been very spiritual and very empathetic. And like I said, I just noticed that, first of all, I have an energy that comes from my hands. It's warm and it's tingly. And it's funny because sometimes I can even stand around people and they'll start crying. And they'll be like, I feel really hot and I'm crying and all these things. Once again, it's happened in Walmart many times. And they're like, I don't know what's going on with me, but I feel hot and tingly and I'm crying and I don't know what's wrong with me. And I'm like, oh, well, and I know it's not my hands, it's my field. I pray and I ask God and Source to please use me as a vehicle of love, light, healing, creativity, beauty, and that I empower and awaken and inspire others. My greatest purpose is to just be a vehicle through Source. It's not me, I'm just a vehicle, and I'm just using, my abilities that I was created for from Source. But I really can tell that, your field, maybe it's your frequency. If people, I always ask God, I always say if their souls and if their bodies are receptive to it, let me be a healing vehicle through my field or through my words or through my actions or through my touch. I do lay hands on people. I was always told not to do that my whole life. I grew up Catholic, and I was always said, don't say anything. Don't tell people that you do that. Don't touch anybody. Don't talk about energy. Don't talk about angels. Don't talk about this, that, blah, blah, blah. Naughty, 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 naughty. And behave yourself, Kristin. And I was like, but that's my reality. Like, my reality has always been very different than a lot of people. But yeah, I think healing can be so many different forms: words, thoughts, energy, hands, fields, intention. Like I said, when I meditate and I pray, I send people healing, love, and light, and I ask them to be blessed, and I ask them for clarity and protection and healing and divine guidance. I think it's all healing. We are all healers. We are all naturally designed that way. I just have a very strong intention to be a healer, a teacher, and a creator. That's me in 3 words, probably. But
What are
like
the
I
three
said,
words again? What are the 3
I'm
words?
a healer, a teacher, and a creator.
I love it.
That's probably me. Yeah. But
Yeah.
but like I said, I would have never talked about this years ago because I was raised in a very scientific, everything has evidence, everything is black and white, everything is very logical. You have to have proof for everything. And I mean, it was a wonderful way to be raised. But like I said, I've always been very metaphysical. And I see beyond the veil and I experience things beyond the veil. And so it's kind of a lonely way to live. sometimes. I've learned to be alone quite a bit and to not have anybody relate to you or understand you. But, now
You just
since
kind of
I'm
have a
being
love
more,
affair with yourself.
that's right. I had to. I was like, well, everybody left. So I guess I just am stuck with myself.
Okay.
And like I said, now it's cool because the right people come into my life and the right opportunities and the right, like I said, I always pray whenever I manifest. I always say thank you for all of the right people, places, opportunities, events for coming into my reality for my highest alignment and my divine alignment so that I can live my purpose and my passion and what I was created for. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ian, how do you feel about the healing question? And especially like that framing of magnetism you had, it had me just trying to jumble like a math question around, if someone's at a 2 and an 8, is that too far? But if they're at a 7 and a 3, is that like complementary for healing? That was just one place my mind went. How do you view the healing thing?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I want to hear your thoughts on it too. Because what is healing? Like I wonder how often anyone stops to really question that. And we say healing all the time, like, "Oh, I'm going to heal," or "Don't worry, that'll heal," or whatever. But what does it really mean to heal? And so yeah, it really, really, I don't know, had my brain kind of buzzing and thinking about how I would answer that. And we're talking coming to the example that you just gave that I had shared about people being at different resonances. One thing that I know to be true in my work and that I've seen over and over is if one person's at a 7 and the other person is at a 3, the two of them together are going to find themselves at 5. The person that is up is going to come down to meet the other, and the person that is down is going to come up. If one person has really big, excitement, energy, and the other person doesn't, like that, they normally will come and find that equilibrium, and not like always, but I just mean like in general. If somebody comes home with excitement, the other person might not have had excitement, but that raised energy is going to impact the other person, and together they're going to find that balance. Especially with people who like cohabitate, and that works with parents and kids, that works with anybody that is in close proximity because of subtle body energy, and we are constantly sharing that energy. When I'm in
Mhm.
close proximity with someone, their energy, I'm absorbing it, and they're
Yep.
absorbing mine, whether we like it or not, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. That is happening.
Yes.
And so when I think of healing, to me, as simply put as possible, healing is raising your vibration.
Yep.
The higher your vibration, the higher your resonance, I believe that is the best thing for you. The most prana that you can have in your body, the most life source energy that you can have, the higher you're going to resonate. They've measured like feelings and emotions and gratitude and authenticity and appreciation are really high. Meanwhile,
Very
fear,
high.
worry, doubt is really low. And so
Yeah.
if you're living in a state of fear and worry and doubt all of the time, how healed are you really going to be?
It affects your immune system.
Right. It
It
affects
makes us
everything.
physically
And they've
ill.
they've even
Yes.
shown that like the vibration of like cancer, for instance, is really close to doubt and fear and worry. Like you're on the way out when you're in that level of vibration. It like
Mhm.
as you when you're born, right? When you're born, you're full of prana and you keep going and you keep
Mhm.
going. Then eventually you hit this point where you kind of plateau on your energy level, and then you start to decline. And so, like you think about like what's the right word? Like a child who is growing, and their bones and their organs and their brain and everything is expanding, and they're increasing. Everything about them is increasing. They're increasing knowledge. They're increasing capacity. They're increasing everything. And then at a certain point, like you stop growing, you're not taller, and you start kind of shrinking, and you start
Yeah.
hunching over, and you start getting more tired, and you don't have the energy that you once did, and all of these things that we're like, yeah, that's just part of getting old. But energetically speaking, you're going from gaining energy to losing energy. And eventually, as you get old and you begin the process of death, your energetic level just gets lower and lower until there's very little left. And so that's how I view that question. What is healing? Healing is raising your vibration, the energy that you are embodying, as high as you can get it for as
Mhm.
long as you can, until I mean, we can't do it forever, right? Unless we're in the Bible and we can live to 900 years. And maybe they did, and maybe
I'm
that's
going
how
to
they
shoot
did
for
it.
300.
Yeah, 300 is a fair goal,
Alexander
but
says, Mom, you're going
right,
to live till 300.
250 for sure.
That's actually
Okay, okay.
that's actually my follow-up question I really have for you. I'm curious, do you, this is for both of you guys, I will answer the healing question eventually, but this is too juicy. I always think about this. It's something that keeps me up at night almost, so help me out here. Do you think that a person, when you call it a soul or the physical body, a person is incarnated, born into this life with a certain reservoir of energy that they can use, or do they have the ability to replenish that or connect or keep that going? That's, I worry about that all the time. Can we use up all our prana too early and then kind of be like a husk in a way, like the energy vampire, or is that not how it works? I'm basically worried that it's the first one, but let me know what you guys think.
Kristen, you go first. Your hand is up.
You got your hand up.
Okay, yay! Okay. So
We know which kid Kristen was in school too.
Yeah. Okay, so I always have people, they're like, how do you have so, like, if you meet me in person, I physically have more energy than most humans. And I'm very strong and I don't get tired very often. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of weird. And people are always like, how do you? And I used to think that was normal, but I'm figuring out that that's not very normal. Um, and people are always like, how do you have so much physical life force energy? And how, like, and basically what I do is during my meditation, I always tell people, this sounds very strange, but I always tell people I eat light, I absorb light. And basically what I do is whenever I'm meditating and I'm praying, I tell God and I ask God, and I always say, I am, what do I always say? I am filling my life source with copious amounts of light and life force, very powerful life force energy. Like I literally imagine a giant white ray coming into my body, and I ask God to put it into every single cell in my body and to rejuvenate myself. And I basically, it sounds strange, but I absorb light, and I always just say thank you for filling my body with divine life source energy and and powerful life force energy. And I really think that that practice, and I mean, if you meet me, you're gonna realize I've got a lot of energy going on over here. Um, Yes, and I believe that we do have that ability if we're intentional with our thought and our prayers, and we take care of ourselves and we work on our frequency and we do live a pretty good lifestyle. Um, I always joke around and say I'm going to be like Benjamin Button, and I always say, I'm gonna, I feel young, I feel rejuvenated, and basically, I'm always in light. And I do think that you do have the capability of doing that because I've been doing that for years, and I really think I absorb life force energy, and I thank God for it, and I use it to, like I said, be a vehicle for so many people as a healer and a teacher. I need that energy because everything goes from here to there. So I mean, I need a lot of energy going on up in this body and in this field. So like I said, I asked to be a vehicle, so I need a lot of life force energy. So yes, I think personally it is possible because I do that all the time. So
Fantastic.
I don't know.
Thank you.
Just my
All right.
thoughts.
All right, Ian, don't crush my dreams, but do it if you have to. What do you think?
Dude, I've been like, I don't know if you could hear the little pitter patter over here, but I'm like, I really like this question. I was typing away my answer so I didn't lose it. All right. So energy, capacity, prana, do you have like a certain amount or can you replenish? And is there only so much you can put in your reservoir? Love this topic, and I do want to make sure you come. No more deflecting after this. We want to hear Derek's answers too, but no, for real, these are great questions. So,
Sorry, Derek.
I think that energy ultimately comes down to how you're spending your time. Are you producing things? Are you consuming things? And if you are consuming things, what are you consuming? And essentially, how are you sourcing your energy? So, for instance, a really easy comparison here is Are you drinking energy drinks, which give you the illusion of giving you energy? Meanwhile, it's robbing your body of like really important, nutrients and chemical processes because it's forcing your body to do something else to give you something now, but tomorrow you're going to be gassed because your body's going to have to recover from it. And so you just find yourself constantly consuming this thing because you have to make up for it. You're compensating for the energy drink you had yesterday the next day because otherwise you're going to be dead the next day energetically. Or are you like, and for instance, food too. So like, and this is a whole thing. We can go down this rabbit hole too after Derek gives his answer. But food, are you consuming food that you just picked from outside that is fresh and still has life giving energy? I mean, this literally is let's use a piece of fruit, for instance. If you have an apple tree, that apple was created in real time from the earth. The earth is taking energy, putting it into this apple that you then eat, and you now have that energy because it came from that tree. Or are you eating an apple that was picked in another country before it was ripe, put on put in a box, sent in a truck or a ship? It's then transported over several days' time at a minimum to a grocery store where then it sits in the back until somebody grabs it and puts it in the thing, and then you wait and you take it home. Like, how long has it been since that apple, which is full of prana, has been picked and is just sat? And I mean, every moment it's losing prana. It's not like that apple peel is like this like perfect encasement of energy. Like, it's going to decrease energetically. Meat is another example. If you kill an animal right then, you catch a fish and then you clean it and you cook it and you eat it, you are receiving its life source energy. But if you kill it and then you freeze it and then you eat it a year later, how much life source energy is really still in that fish? And so how are you sourcing your energy? That is really the question. And if you're constantly eating things that are dead and that have very little energy, by dead I mean dead energy, like you're eating meat that's been on a shelf, you're eating packaged food that has no prana at all because it's chemicals and preservatives and meant to be shelf stable for decades. Like, that's I don't believe that humans are designed for that. I mean, we are biological beings that thrive on the earth, and the earth gives us what we need. And we have been participating in a society, a culture where we're not really consuming what we need to thrive. We've Great Depression and war times, like, yeah, you have to kind of make it work and eat a lot of grain and like do the things that are just you gotta survive the winters and that kind of mentality. But we're still kind of living in that place, but we're not in that time anymore, which is an interesting thing. But anyway, my point is, before I digress too far, how are you consuming your energy, and what are you bringing into your body? I think that's going to be the first indicator of how much energy you have, true energy. And then as far as capacity, I believe that yes, we all have like a capacity, and everyone's capacity is going to be different for how much energy they're going to be able to bring in. But I think that your capacity is going to be dictated by like whatever, it's going to be relevant to your ability to accomplish whatever you're here to do. I don't think that we're here by accident. It's like, oh, well, it's basically Grand Theft Auto. It doesn't matter. Or we're just jumping in here to wreak havoc and go crazy. And there's no consequences to our actions. There's no purpose. There's no point. I don't resonate with that mentality. I think that we are here to do something. We have to be. And whatever your purpose is or whatever you're here to do, your reservoir for prana is going to be whatever it needs to be, so that if it was full, you would be very capable and able to accomplish whatever you're here to do. And so having different capacities, capacities of reservoirs for energy, it's not a bad thing to have less of a capacity. Maybe you just don't need to have Kristin's level of energy in order to accomplish the things that you're here to do. Maybe it is a little bit of a lower amount or less energy, but it's still exactly how much you need to do what you're here to do. I think that you're provided with all that you need when you're here.
Oh, thank you. Wow. Got my mind buzzing. I'll try
Take
to go
it
to
away.
healing before energy too much. I think. Oh man, I want to keep going off the energy, but we'll lose what healing is, and I'll try to tie them together. There we go. Healing and energy. It's all the same, probably.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love this. I'm in medicine. I'm a physician assistant, so I do think about healing a lot. I almost never would call myself a healer. I don't know why. It just feels like
Oh,
it's such a divine, beautiful thing to even with our limited language to take on, that I have that power. Just feels very like hubris, just very, very wrong. But that's my own. We'll talk about that in some other time. That's my own thing. But regardless, I work in a healing profession and try my best. And so when I think about that, I oddly, for being in that field for a long time, don't have a super clear answer. It is a really interesting question. The first thing that comes to mind is wholeness. Wholeness really, really resonates with me. It's not that we're necessarily changing or adding anything that wasn't there, that anyone was defective. It was that there was some kind of break almost in the wholeness, and that we can all, in a way, it's like adding something back, but the point is that everyone has the puzzle pieces that just need to be rearranged. Maybe it's not that they're really missing something, they're deficient in anything. It's just that because we are interdependent creatures, we're all on this earth, this universe together, that there's somehow we have the missing puzzle pieces. We can kind of unlock someone's where theirs is hidden away and just a little bit off, and like, oh, I got that corner piece, it was right, it was just hiding behind your kidney there, like, here's your corner piece, there you go, it looks better now. It's something like that. I think about blockages and energy that's just circulating. I think about mental health. Anything about thought patterns and just limiting beliefs and thoughts like, I am not powerful, I'm a victim, and that being a thought that's swirling around your ecosystem, that someone with their words, like you said, Kristin, could just with the right words, hopefully this podcast reaches someone, and you're inspiring everything, Kristin, reaches someone and tweaks one little thought that's going around in their head, and all of a sudden they feel better, and they don't know why, and they can't place it. And that's healing. That's mentally healing. Spiritual healing would be something to do with the whole energy system, all the nadis, the chakras, things that I don't understand from a medical perspective, or in the spiritual ones that I know just enough of each little thing to know that I don't know anything. I think there's that kind of flow that's really easier to visualize, the energy and the flow from those different systems and your chakras and blockages. And then the same thing with our physical body, more the area that I specialize in, more about, all right, so you obviously, your spine is like this and your energy is not going to be flowing well. You might need, something to help with that. You might need yoga. You might need this, or your muscles are chronically tight and something might be able to help release that. Or there's a disease, there's a bacteria that's taken presence on your skin, and something needs to be done to help remove that because it doesn't belong on your system right now and you're spending a lot of energy. So healing is finding that balance, finding that flow, finding wholeness.
Yep.
Yeah. And all of that does relate to this energy thing, because that's how I don't know how separate our energy is from whatever you might call a soul, whatever you might call consciousness and awareness. Yep. Those seem to be nearly synonymous for me, the awareness and energy. When someone's really aware, you look at a meditation, master, someone who's meditated for years and years and years and teaches people, they normally have a presence. You normally, like, when I've been on meditation retreat, like, you turn your head when they walk in the room. They don't make a noise.
But you can feel them.
You can feel them, just like people feel Kristin and start crying and stuff. Same thing. Like, you can feel that deep level of presence, even if it's not outwardly appearing. That was what was really interesting for me. I can get there scientifically if someone's moving around a lot or is glowing almost, and they just clearly like look a certain way and they have a lot of like physical energy. Sure, maybe we can pick up on that, and it's more about those. But if someone's just walking slowly towards you and you're still like, whoa, you can pick
what
up.
the heck?
You can pick up on. It's like Ian was saying, something in that sensorium that we have cultivated, but we don't really understand, that we don't really tune into most of the time. And I love the way you went with that energy, and all these things, food. I went on those other places too with that, like our connection, how we can get energy from, like you do with your practices, Kristin, from like source. I think there is a way to connect to that. That just resonates with me. And in times of my life, whenever, things have been dark and I've been dealing with a lot and I've seen 20 patients and my energy's like depleted, I would have to do things that got that back up. I would do qigong, I would meditate, I would dance, I would ecstatically dance. I would find a way to do breath work, and I was always able to stoke that fire back and prove to myself, like, oh no, you don't need it from these outside areas.
Nope.
That was huge for me, finding it from source and from others. We're all connected. Sometimes you do. If you're at a 5, maybe you go hang around with some 9s, and you don't necessarily bring everyone down. There's some kind of a synergy that can happen, I think, whereas
There's
you
an
go
exchange.
up, exactly. So I like to look at it dynamically, because it feels bad if you're like, oh, I gotta go hide myself away, or I'm gonna suck the energy from my friends. But this goes across time, lifespans, even maybe many different lifespans. So connection from source and others. I really thought about the spine. I think of us as antennas a lot of the time. So when we talk
We
about
are
energy,
antennas.
I so much think about our spine being the main source of that, and why, like, these exercises I'll do. Sometimes I'll be really consistent and do the 5 Tibetan rites. They're a series of spine exercises you do every morning. They're called the Fountain of Youth. They say, if you do these, you're going to maybe not live forever, but more or less it keeps that antenna tuned, and I feel that. And then I even went to thinking about mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. If anyone took biology class, and a lot of like health people will talk about mitochondria, and will do different supplements to help with your mitochondrial health, and practices like cold plunges and things. I think there's a lot to that part of our energy, at this really cellular level that Western science is good at looking at, and producing ATP that you can also tweak, that's all related to these systems. And I even thought about, alcohol being the opposite, kind of like the thing that dampens it. Because I've heard people talk about holding a charge. What does it take to hold the charge? When you look at those meditation master people and you're like, wow, there's just so much awareness and energy. Some of those people have alcoholism. They literally, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche famously, it's in my lineage, died at like 44 from alcoholic liver failure. And it doesn't really make sense. You're like, this is very respected, venerated, tapped into source. What was it? But part of me thinks it has to do with what you were talking about, Ian, with the reservoirs and what you're meant to do, and that to hold the charge.
That's what I thought of too.
Yeah, to hold the charge isn't always easy. With great power, great responsibility, and all that, I think it's probably a lot. And so there was some dimming that had to happen for that person to carry that. So when they did shoot out the incredible energy that they needed that changed the world, the rest of the time when they just need to go to sleep, like they had to do something. And I think that's a whole separate combo. But it's a really interesting way to look at substance use issues, and to kind of put a different framing on things. And similar to that, just exogenous versus endogenous. You mentioned the energy drinks, and I thought it was such a good example. And it was just like, if you're getting your energy from outside, don't you think something's going to kind of turn off on the inside and stop producing that for you? We can only do that for so long before the system adapts. I think that the same way with our endocannabinoid system and THC and marijuana. That's an interesting one, where we do produce cannabinoids. And I think about that all the time. If we use exogenous cannabinoids and we're using marijuana, what are we doing to our endocannabinoid system and its natural production? So there's just so many factors like this that we have to figure out, like, how do we tune this antenna, this machine? And it's incredible. So yeah, those are my big spattering of thoughts on energy and healing. I absolutely love this conversation. We could go for days.
I'm happy we can have this conversation and I don't have to behave myself.
I think you're behaving yourself perfectly fine.
No one's going to call you naughty.
Yeah.
No laying hands, but other than that,
Okay.
Just because you can't.
Yeah, another example that came up just back on that topic, and then we can segue into something different. But like another example would be how much, like, a concern that I have, or something that I witness just societally, sociologically, is a lot of people are getting the lion's share of their like socializing through social media. And so you compare those two things too. How much energy are you really getting from interacting with someone on Facebook or Instagram versus being in the same space, having a interaction, having a like exchange with that person in real time? how much energy are you really getting comparatively? Or how much is that going to fill up that
It's not.
reservoir of like, I'm gonna
Reservoir.
reservoir.
It's
I
like
don't
a
know where we
wire.
went
It's connected.
reservoir.
No, it's like a wire connecting to like a reservoir.
But if you know what I mean, like, oh, I'm gonna go back and forth with someone on, like, I was watching this thing, which I do sometimes. I'll just kind of like, almost like a voyeur of like, just like, I'll just like go, and there's a few different groups in this area where it's a very large group of just all the people that live in this area, and somebody will make some post, and every time it's like, ooh, this is gonna be juicy. Let me get to the comments. And so I go in there, and I was reading one recently, and it was just so interesting watching people interact, watching how they communicate with each other. And like some people, like there's like a couple of people who will comment like on everyone's thing. Like somebody says something that's in opposition to their view, and they're gonna say their thing, and they're gonna try to get them. They're gonna try to champion their idea over the other idea and kind of like shut the other person down. And like I wonder, like, what, like, with people who choose to interact with others in that way, like how filled is your cup really, at the end of that exchange, versus having a real
Empty.
time discussion where maybe you're actually open to hearing them because you're looking in their eyes and you're acknowledging that they're a human being with life, lived experience, and that they have, a beating heart, and like they have, families and stuff, versus some name on the screen who says something that is in opposition to you. And so you're just going to try to cut them down, or, present your idea in a superior way to theirs. Like, how filled is your cup really? And then just extrapolate that out. I think a lot of, I mean, even if it's positive, even if it's a positive interaction, like, how filled is your cup? What are you really getting from that energetically on this screen? It's not real. It's not really happening. You know what I
So
mean?
good.
It's this. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's so. My friend Steven talks about this all the time, with talking about how in this day and age, the signal has been so removed from what it evolutionarily or intuitively represented, or what it was a signal of. What you're talking about is exactly a great example. You're talking about social connection being the signal, and you think about a social network, and I'm on the thing, and if I interact, social connection. But it's so removed from what social connection can be, in the person to person, and the exchange of energy, and the facial like recognition, and the eye contact, and connecting at a deeper level, that we will keep going to it because the signal's there, and we're just responding to the signal like boom, boom, boom. But we get really disconnected that it's not filling us up. The other great example is food. The food that we eat, the processed food, so much of the time, you have this food that is just blasting you a signal. It's sugar, and it's salt and fat. And it's like, these are the signals that we've evolved with our sensorium for thousands of years to be like, oh, nutrition. Yay, we got the kill. We found the berry. We did whatever. Like, we are going to survive. Yay. But the bag of Doritos, unfortunately, is not going to actually fill the thing. And that's why you can eat 2,000 calories of it and then still want food, because you're getting signal after signal after signal after signal, but it's not getting the thing that signal is actually supposed to point to.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing.
Another great example of the signal, and this has been a bunch of podcasts about this, and we won't go into it because other people have already done a great job explaining it. But the signal for, we're talking about signals, the signal for community, tribalism. We, as biological human beings, we like community. We want to have our group. We want to have our little community of people that align with us and that we do feel safe around. And then the signal that people are responding to are sports teams and political factions of like, yeah, we're team blue, or yeah, we're I hear people here I live in Arkansas, and so all these people like the Razorback football. They're not very good, but man, do people really still want to align with it? And they'll be like, man, we didn't do this good this week, or we really needed to like, but dude, you work at frickin' a gas station. What do you mean we aren't doing anything? There are kids that are playing a sport, being exploited by a university for millions. Well, and it's impacting your life. I've been in public settings where people are furious. People are like, screaming and like throwing, like really being violent in response to a football game on a TV because they associate themselves, they associate their identity with that thing because that's the signal for them for their community. But in a real community, in a like real time, you all live together and you share your resources and you live in close proximity. Again, how filled is your cup energetically from that community compared to a sports team that you have no real connection to, no influence on? Like, it's just that signal. It's our minds have been almost deceived and tricked into going toward this thing because like, or like a moth to a bug zapper. I need this light. The light is what I need, but it's not really the light, but you think it is, and so you're going to it anyway at your own, to your own detriment.
Yeah, that's right. Like the moth to flame thing, the moth to the bug zapper are really good. You can have a light without warmth. It seems like it's going to be, but we all know the warmth of a fire, and that's very different than the LED, perfect crackling fireplace thing. But you can't know that all the time. Sometimes the seeing is believing is a really interesting phrase. It doesn't. It's not. I don't think that the way I was interpreting it when you said it earlier is that there's a lot of wisdom there because it's not true, not because it is true. The wisdom is that seeing is believing. What I heard there was that we really privilege one sense over the others, and we have to watch out for that because seeing is believing means that we're going to be misled a lot of the time. That's just one sense, and you need the five senses make a man blind, like let alone the one. The one sense really makes you blind if that's what you think of believing is. Can you hear it? Can you feel it? Can you taste it? Can you touch it? You have to actually not have to. You can be whatever you want. You can go into all the bug zappers you want, guys. It's fine. But if you are trying to find truth, then it takes a lot more than even the five senses, let alone one. Yeah.
I've been excited lately, and maybe it's just my reality, but I always like to talk to everybody and ask how their day is doing, even at a Walmart or a Home Goods. But I notice it's really sweet. I've actually had a lot of people, especially young people, tell me, "Thank you so much for asking me how my day was." And they're like, "Nobody has said that to me." And then I can tell now whenever I hug people or I meet people, like they're craving touch, they're craving connection. I feel like people are so tired, and people deep down know inside that that's how we're designed. I feel like now they're a little more open and receptive to it, and they want that. So I notice, like I said, whenever I go in places, like they're really receptive, and you can tell they crave that and they're needing that. And I have been seeing a shift where people are more open, people are more loving, people want to be touched more, people want to be held more, people want to be spoken to more, and they want that connection. I think they're hungry for it, and I think they're remembering how we are. Some people, not all people, but I think that they're starting to remember that's how we're naturally designed. We are energy, and I intentionally, whenever I do retreats or workshops, I don't like to work with too many people, usually no more than like 25, because I like to establish an actual energetic connection with my clients. So that way I can help them and work with them and feel them and understand them. But I feel like, I think people hopefully are starting to get tired of that, and they're starting to get tired of that reality, and we're becoming more community oriented, and we're searching for that on physical terms. So
Yeah.
I'm seeing that. I don't know, am I crazy? Like that's what my reality is showing me. Like people just seem more receptive. Yes, I would love a hug. Yes, I would love it if you talked to me. Yes, I would love some sort of, I'm hungry for connection. Like I've just been seeing that a lot more, and I'm so excited about it because, like I said, I think that's how we're designed.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
I experienced the same when I observe people and observe just the society in general. I think more people are feeling that that void or that lack of connection. But even if they're not aware of it, I think there is. I think it's a thing that is happening because they're not getting enough. That like there's it's almost like if you're not getting enough air, your body is going to be like, hey, we need to get some air. Like whether you
Yep.
understand why you're not getting the air, your body's going to, again, back to signals, your body's going to send you signals saying, hey, we need a little bit more air. We may not know why or what's going on, but we need this. We're noticing the lack of a need that
Yes.
we absolutely are desiring. And so I think I witnessed the same thing, even if the people aren't aware that they're needing that connection. There's a part of them that is seeking it because they're not fulfilled in that area. Back to
Yep.
wholeness that Derek was talking about too, the
Yep.
gestalt of everything.
What
Like
it has to do with
we need
happy,
everything.
healthy, and whole.
We need all the things. Yeah.
Wholeness. Yeah. I always think it's so funny the word whole and whole are the same with the W or without.
I never thought about that, but you're right.
Isn't it wild? And holy. You keep going. We can keep going forever. Holy, whole.
Now you gave me something to think about after this podcast. I'll
That's
meditate on
That's part
that.
of the goal, right? We're all trying to walk each other home, give each other little pieces that we can find.
That's right.
I think it is so fascinating that we want to fill whole, and then we find ourselves filling holes. Even the fill and fill, guys. Let me off, guys. Fill whole. You want to fill whole, so you have to fill the hole.
To feel the
You
hole.
want to fill whole, you have to.
And then you
fill
can feel holy after that because you filled the hole. You
Exactly.
filled your purpose.
Exactly, and the holy is what gets us. That's the bridge between it. Whatever's holy, it really is. I love language. It is fascinating. It's one of those energetic ways in which we try to, piece this all together. Well, speaking of people desperate for connection and looking to connect, we do have questions from our listeners that we normally end with. If you're okay taking a question, Kristin. But before we
Sure.
switch over to that, this has just been incredible. Any final threads in you two, and of course, anything we want to tie up or anything else that we typed up. This has been incredible. We're very energetic. Anything before we move to a question from our listeners?
I have one thing. So this is going to be, I'm springing it on you, Derek. I've been thinking about a question, just I don't know, just something to explore. It doesn't have to be every podcast episode that we involve this or integrate this into the interview, but I want to know from everyone in general, but especially from the people that we're interviewing on this podcast, like if you could articulate one thing, if there's one thing that you want people to know, you want people to hear, you want people to understand about you, about the world, about life, about whatever, if there's one thing that you want people to hear, like truly hear, what's that one thing?
Love that. Love it.
So Chris,
I think.
take it away.
All right. I really believe that if we follow our purpose and our passion and our authenticity, we can light up the whole world. I mean, let's just make it the universe. Why not? So I think that would be the thing for me. Like, what is your passion? Like, what I think if I really feel like authenticity is actually one of the highest vibrational frequencies because that's what we were designed for. And I feel like if we could tap into that, like if we could live in our authenticity and our truth, imagine how we could light up the whole world and change everything. So I think that's the thing for me. Like how can you live your truth? How can you really be your authentic self? And then how can you empower others to do the same just by being who you were designed to be? And then it spreads around everywhere and we ignite the light because everybody is living their truth and why they were designed in the first place. I think that's where it's at. I think authenticity is awesome. Took me a while to get there, but anyways, it's kind of my thought.
I hear you.
It's fantastic.
Thank you for sharing.
Heard. Thank you. Makes perfect sense. It's what we're talking about with wholeness. You're talking about authenticity. What is, authenticity other than just being yourself wholly
Yeah.
and being that whole thing?
I think they're the same. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they're kind of the same. They're the same thing.
And I think what people might be really surprised about, what resonated when you said that to me, was the ease of it. There doesn't have to be there can't be trying almost when you are just being. It's like all the quips and stuff from movies sometimes have a lot of deep meaning that we and I think it's Yoda. Do or do not. There is no try. Do or do not. There is no try. It's really good, actually, in how much of our time is spent tying ourselves into not trying, tying and trying, tying and trying. And then we're all tired and we don't know why we're miserable. But it's because we tried ourselves to death when we could have just been. Could have just been.
Yeah.
Just
Our
been right
natural
here.
state. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I think it's a beautiful message. I knew you'd have something great, Kristen. No surprise there whatsoever. All right.
Well,
Well,
I was going to say one more thing. I have a lot of people that I coach, and a lot of them are women, and they say, Kristen, I don't know like who I am or what I want. I've been a people pleaser my whole life. And so one simple tip that I would give to anybody that's having a hard time tapping into their authenticity, because I mean that happens. I always tell people you need to think about what is it that brings you the most joy. That's the best place to start. What is it that brings me the most joy? And then once we figure out what it is that brings us the most joy and we start doing that, other things will start following and then we will fall into our authenticity because that's how we're naturally designed. So ask yourself, what is it that brings me the most joy? And that gives us so many answers. Because a lot of people don't know that in the beginning. Like, what's my purpose? What's my passion? Follow the joy, and that will get you there.
wow. Follow
It's great.
Follow the
the.
joy.
Oh,
Yeah. And you'll start attracting more things into your life, and then you'll get your answers, and it'll all start piecing together. Pretty cool. But, anyways,
very much pretty cool. And our editor is gonna have an easy job with clips, other than that. You know, I want her to clip the entire episode. That everything you said, Kristen. Other than that, all right, but one more. We're gonna squeeze a little more energy out of you, a little more of the juice. We'll do one more for our listeners. All right, this question from the listener. I think you're gonna like this one.
okay.
So it's kind of on codependence and independence. And
Oh, I'm a recovering codependent.
I thought that might go along with people pleasing somewhat.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, very much
So
so.
the question went, I have unmet needs in my relationship. How do
Yes.
you go about figuring out what needs are specific to this relationship and which can be met in a healthy way through other avenues or relationships?
Well, like I said, I'm a recovering codependent, and it's hard because their needs become your needs. Like you actually become blind to your own needs. And so I would say one of the most powerful ways that we can tap into what our needs are and not theirs is our intuition, our feelings. And so if something feels wrong or if something feels yucky or if whenever you're giving somebody something, if it feels off or if it feels disconnected, then that's probably their needs, not your needs. And so, and a lot of times everything is a mirror. So a lot of times, like if we're looking at something or something makes us uncomfortable or something makes us angry, everything is a mirror. So that's usually an indication of a need that is not being met. So instead of reacting and getting angry about it, we need to have awareness, like you talked about, and we need to be like, all right, what is it in this situation that's making me so angry or uncomfortable or frustrated? Because it's usually an unmet need, and they are mirroring to you what it is that is not met within yourself. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I can tell. It's like one of my greatest needs was to just be valued. Like I just wanted to be valued. I've been rejected so much. Literally, I could give an entire seminar on rejection. Uh, and I think it's because I'm a hard-headed woman that did not see my value for so long. And it kept coming up and coming up and coming up. And I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? And it's because I didn't love myself for people to even value me. And so it was a mirror. And so literally I had to have tons of people leave me and treat me like trash and forget about me and run away from me. And until I loved myself, and now all the right people come to me. I mean, some still run away, but it is what it is.
That's right. Beautiful. Thank you. All right, listeners will be happy. Again, remember, listeners, you can pick the brains of incredible people like Kristen. I sure hope you're coming back, so you can also send
Sure.
specific questions for Kristen. I will not be surprised if we have many for you specifically. But also just for anyone at contact at doyoufeelheard.com or helpingtheherd.com.
Helpingtheherd.com.
Yeah. contact at helpingtheherd.com. Please send those in. And Kristin, this has been incredible. Where can people find you? And you mentioned coaching. Are you taking clients right now?
I'm taking some. I'm coaching a couple of people right now. As you know me, I'm energetically sensitive, so I don't like to work with too many people, but I mean, I would take some more people right now. And I love, I'm actually going to start doing more classes as well. It was funny. I was meditating the other day and I was like, "What's the problem?" And my guide said, "Kristin, you're the problem. You're the one that is not taking action, doing your classes like you were meant to do, you know." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I know." So yeah, if you can tell them to follow Rosete Family Farms, Rosete Family Farms, on Facebook or Instagram. And I'm also on LinkedIn because, like I said, I host a lot of executive retreats here and corporate retreats. I'm under Kristin Rosete. My farm's in Garfield, Arkansas. But yeah, they can connect with me and get my information. And like I said, I'd love to do coaching and development. And if they would just, I mean, if they come to the farm, like I said, it's an amazing healing sanctuary. So like I said, usually the moment they come in, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I feel so much better." And you know, it's just like you said, one of the pieces of healing. There's so many different ways. And one of them is energy. So
Fantastic. Well, we'll definitely link to all that in the show notes. And if if GPS doesn't work as you get closer, it's the one with the giant purple dome. If you can't
yes.
see it or feel it, it's that one. It's pretty easy to find. It looks like a blueberry. It makes a lot of sense.
I know, right?
Wonderful. And for you two, when's that retreat coming up for our local listeners or people who are going to travel in from it? People come along. When's that retreat? Yeah.
Well, I'll take it. Yeah, November 9th is the date, and it's really going to be geared toward people who are having difficulty with people pleasing or who recognize that they're falling into that pattern of prioritizing others over themselves, and they're feeling, not fulfilled or feeling like their capacity, their reservoir is drained, and but it's if you have the awareness that there's something there and you're not sure what to do about it or how to shift out of that mentality or that pattern, this retreat is going to be specifically for you. And there's going to be lots of tools and concepts. And what was that?
And I said, and during the holiday season, which is super beneficial, especially for women when we try to do everything for everybody. So we'll be doing that. I'm going to do some mindfulness and helping women be aware of actually how to enjoy the holidays for themselves as well. So they are intentional about creating a reality that they love. So that'll be, after Ian does that, and then we'll have a sound bath for some reconnection and grounding in between. So I think it's going to be an absolutely beautiful event.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time and really helpful and supportive for people who
super
are looking
helpful
for that support. So
yeah. Because a lot of people need that. Like I said, I'm a recovering people pleaser, so I'm all about it.
People pleasing is a very common thing, and so that's kind of why we're focusing on this, because it's such a common issue that people struggle with getting out of that mentality, that pattern.
Yep.
I'm so glad you guys are doing that. What a joy. I wish I could be there. Maybe the universe will align. I will try to put that out there and take some of your advice, Kristin.
That's right. Manifest it.
I'll do everything I can. But I'm excited to meet you whenever I get to. This has been great.
Yes.
Ian, thanks so much for connecting me with this wonderful person and connecting our listeners. Kristin, thanks so much for your time. This has been great.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I enjoyed my time with you. Namaste and have a beautiful, blessed day, as I always say.
This has been the Do You Feel Heard podcast. If you're interested in resources that will help you move through conflict, you can go to doyoufeelheard.com, where we have tools for individuals and couples.